ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Readings from Meditation and Spiritual Life, Chapter 23, Mystic Worship. First point: offer everything to God. What is most covetable to people in general, and whatever is specially dear to oneself, should be offered unto me. That offering produces infinite results. We worship with the things we get from Him. We do not create the flower, nor do we create the fire. These come to our hands, and the way we use them makes the difference. The devotee offers everything that comes to him to the Lord. And what is the fun of that? Thereby you expand your soul. By offering to God what He gives you, you yourself feel purified and your soul grows. It assimilates a larger share of the blessings of the Lord. The more you appropriate those things as your own, the narrower and more clouded your soul becomes. Anything can be offered to the divine: your food, new dress, car, everything you get. Before you start using it, first offer it to the Lord mentally. Accept it as a sacramental thing and use it with care. This purifies the mind, elevates it. God is the greatest purifier. Anything connected to Him becomes holy. By handling sanctified things, we sanctify ourselves, purify ourselves. In our ashramas, our new publications and invitation cards are first sent to the shrine. They are put in circulation only after they are offered to the divine. This is a good practice which you can do in your home regarding everything you buy. The act in itself may not be great, but when hundreds of little actions of this type, hundreds of little offerings to the divine are done, the cumulative effect of all these after some years is really tremendous. Gradually, a spirit of surrender and detachment will come to stay with us. In fact, there is no other way to get this. Surrender and purity do not come all of a sudden. They are the accumulated result of hundreds of little actions. In the devotional schools, especially in Vaishnavism, service of holy men and poor people is stressed very much. Service is an important thing in spiritual life. Offering everything to the divine and then using it oneself is no doubt good. It connects you to the divine. But what is the test of your sincerity? How do you know that you are prepared to renounce everything for God? The only test is your readiness for sacrifice. You should be ready to sacrifice everything for the divine. The best way to cultivate the idea of sacrifice is through service. Service naturally implies some kind of sacrifice. When a hungry man comes to you, give him a share of your food. When a poor man comes to you, give him a share of your wealth. Similarly, you have to sacrifice your time, pleasures, energy, etc. for the service of those who are ill, ignorant, or suffering. Look upon everyone as a temple of God. By serving men, you are worshipping the Lord. This was the great idea behind Swami Vivekananda's philosophy of work. It is no use talking about spirituality to a man who is poor and hungry, he should be given food first. That is a way of worshipping the Lord. Offering flowers and incense is not the only form of worship. We should develop a synthetic vision, a wider perspective. At the back of our limited existence, our limited consciousness, our limited joys, there is the one undivided, infinite being manifesting himself through every individual. Offering everything to him is the highest form of worship. If we are capable of doing this form of worship, why remain satisfied with the lower ones alone? Our next point is Upasana or mental worship. Apart from worshipping God with material objects, there is another kind of worship, mental worship, which is actually a higher form of worship. In Sanskrit, it is called Upasana, which literally means to sit near the deity. In practice, it means meditation or contemplation on God. This kind of mental worship is the principal spiritual practice in the dualistic and qualified monastic systems of Vedanta. These systems regard God and the self as two separate entities. The worshipper strives to bring about the contact of these two in varying degrees of intimacy. But the distinction between the two is never totally lost. The devotee at first remains the servant and God the master. In the advanced stages, the devotee remains as the soul and God as the soul of all souls. This attitude may serve as a stepping stone to the path of non-dualism or Advaitism. For those whose nature inclines towards a formless God, it may be helpful in the beginning to conceive of Brahman or the Supreme Spirit as the unseen, while the individual soul is looked upon as a wave. There is the eye of the individual soul, distinct from the Supreme Spirit, but actually it exists only in the relation of microcosm to macrocosm. Instead of meditating always on the wave, one may concentrate on the unseen. The wave is one with the element water. It is identifiable both with the vast mass we call the unseen and with the smaller entity we call the wave. As the seeker advances along the spiritual path, he is finally able to realize that water alone is real and the waves are unreal. The distinction between the individual and the universal, the microcosm and the macrocosm, is lost, and the absolute, the one without a second, alone remains. However, this is all very difficult to attain for the vast majority of people who need some kind of worshipful symbols for their meditation. Otherwise, their mind wanders. In order to facilitate concentration, some holy objects are selected. This kind of worship, in which an object is taken as a symbol of God, is a practice common to a devotee of personal God, as well as to those who meditate on the impersonal. God is worshipped not as the symbol, but through the symbol. Since God, by definition, is the Supreme Spirit out of which all things come into existence, by which all things are sustained, and into which all things return, any object can in a way become a symbol of God. But the world religions have since time immemorial held certain symbols as specially sacred. The sun is a good symbol of God as a source of the cosmic energy, as light and heat, and the sun worship was once widely prevalent all over the world. The Hindus and Zoroastrians worship fire as a symbol of God. The Vedas speak of Agni as immortal, who has taken up his abode among the mortals, and also as the mouth of gods, through whom all other gods receive oblations. But we must always bear in mind that the symbol is not God. We must see beyond mere fire or sun in our meditations and find the eternal light itself, of which the symbols are but manifestations. Swami Brahmananda, one of the greatest among the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, tells us, men incline to different ways of worship to satisfy the various temperaments. The scriptures describe four distinct methods of reaching God. One method is ritualistic worship, that is, worshipping God in the image or symbol. Higher than this is the worship of God with prayer and japa. The aspirant meditates on the shining form of his chosen ideal. He prays to him and makes japa. Higher still is meditation, that is, a constant flow of thought towards God. When a man follows this way of worship, he remains absorbed in the living presence of his chosen ideal. Here, there is neither prayer nor japa, but the sense of duality remains. He is and I also am. The highest method, which leads directly and immediately to God, is to meditate on the unity of the Atman with Brahman, to experience Brahman constantly, to know always that he is. It is an actual realization of the omnipresent reality. These are the stages through which the aspirant progresses. A man should begin from where he stands. There is a well-known Sanskrit verse which says, the highest spiritual discipline is the practice of Brahman consciousness. The next is meditation, chanting of hymns and repetition of the divine name form the third step. The lowest is external worship with the help of an image. According to another verse, worshipping the idol is the first step. Better than this is repetition of a holy name and singing of divine glories. Better still is dhyana or contemplation. And the last and the highest state is to realize I am He. Yet another verse says, the twice born ritualistic worship God in the fire. Men of meditation adore Him as the indwelling spirit. The dull-witted worship Him with the help of an image. The same-sighted illumined souls find Him everywhere. Advanced souls do not care for the outside symbol. They meditate on the deity as immanent, as dwelling in their own hearts. Person of gross understanding can only begin their spiritual life by worshipping the deity with the help of an image, which is like a peg to hang their faith on. Enlightened souls, on the other hand, do not need any symbols, for they recognize the divine spirit both inside and outside, as immanent and transcendent at the same time. To merge oneself in the Absolute, the one without a second, is the goal of the Advaitic spiritual practice. This state is reached through an uncompromising analysis of one's thoughts and experiences in search of the ultimate reality, the unchanging basis of the ever-changing phenomenal universe. The follower of this method, being established in perfect purity, negates all the limiting adjuncts of the soul and through it reaches the ultimate reality. This process, called nididhyasana, is a kind of withdrawal or inquiry into the depths of one's being, with a view to attaining the unity of the individual self and the Supreme Spirit. A less qualified spiritual seeker may practice Aham Graha Upasana, a method of worship in which the worshipper identifies himself with the object of his worship, God or Brahman or any particular deity, and meditates on his own self. Meditation on the identity between the worshipper and the worshipped leads to the realization of the one without a second. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.